See? Well, I can't argue with that logic. Folks, we're just going to go down a list of categories, and I'm going to give you some tips that will either help you avoid problems or just up your game as a snake keeper. And stick with me till the end, because we're going to talk about feeding, and specifically that problem that I've been seeing people having lately where their snake will eat food and then go to their cold side to digest. I'm going to tell you what to do about that. But first, other things. Here we go. Enclosures. What's the best one? There's all kinds. There's front opening glass enclosures. There's tubs, fish tanks, PVC, wooden enclosures that people build out of big furniture things. What's the best one? And when you ask this question online, people always answer with, oh, it depends on how many you have and what you want to do and how you're... It's like asking a waiter at a restaurant what's good on the menu. Oh, it depends on what you like. I know it depends on what I like, and ultimately I'll make my decision based on that. I understand how life works, Kevin, but you work here and have probably tried every entree on the menu, so is it possible that you could give a personal opinion to help me order my meal and move the transaction forward? I didn't mean to be so hard on Kevin, but it's just annoying. So I'm going to tell you what the best enclosure is. PVC. Now, that's different if you have a ton of snakes and you don't have a ton of room, or if your dad owns a pet store and you get free front opening glass enclosures. The fact is that PVC solves a lot of the problems that the other enclosures have. It holds heat and humidity really well. It doesn't rot. You can see your animal. You can go in from the front. This front opening glass enclosure, if it was PVC, I wouldn't need two heat sources, one on the top and one on the bottom. I would just have an overhead heat source, and it would be fine. However, this glass enclosure does great on humidity. You know why? Because I replaced my screen top. Guess what I replaced it with? PVC. PVC top now. So it does well with humidity. If you're looking for an enclosure, check out blackboxcages.com. They make really great quality cages. Their lead times are good. They're less expensive than a lot of the competitors. And you can even get a discount if you put in the discount code GRP. They are a channel sponsor, but only in that they provide the green room with equipment. They're not, I don't get paid or I don't get commission from them. So what's the worst enclosure out of those options of various enclosures? Let's see if we can get Bob to go negative. Let's see if we can create some reptile equipment controversy. No, you guys, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say what the worst one is. It's a fish tank. I will say it. And it's also the most common and something that tons of keepers make work. So it's not a huge problem. But the reason the worst one is a fish tank is that it is the hardest one to get the parameters dialed in correctly for a reptile. It's great for fish. Fish don't have humidity problems because the tank is holding 40 gallons of water. But for a reptile, it's hard to dial in the parameters, although it can be done. You have to reach in from the top to get to your animal, which is scary for a lot of snakes. And, you know, if you go on Facebook or Reddit and see all the people complaining that their snake just got out and how do they find their snake, you'll find that 98.7% of those snakes got out of a fish tank. That number was an estimate. But look, if you've got your snake in a fish tank and the heat and humidity is dialed in and your lid is solid and locking, then that's no problem. You're doing great. Your snake is just fine in there. Look, you guys, they switched snakes. This is Bear. 2 fan favorites in a row. Let's talk about humidity really quick. If you're having the problem that everybody else has, which is you can't get your humidity high enough, look at the original care guide. That talks about that. I mean, it's basically mix water into your substrate instead of spraying and cover your screen top. But watch the other care guide. What I want to talk about is people that I've seen recently complaining that their humidity is too high. I've seen a lot of posts where people go, I can't get my humidity below 80%. What do I do? Do nothing. That's fine. I think these posts are from people that are reading that their humidity either should be at 50%, which is too low, or between like 65 and 75, which that's a good humidity. But it doesn't have to be that exact. I would say if your humidity is over 60% and you don't have condensation on the sides of your enclosure, you're fine. So a ball python can live at 80% humidity, can even go up to 90%. It's fine. It's going to dip and drop down and go up and whatever. But I'm also assuming that your enclosure is clean. A dirty enclosure mixed with high humidity will breed bacteria. So keep your enclosures clean. High humidity is fine. They are happy with that. Take it from Bear. Hi, I'm Bear, and I like my humidity pretty high. I apologize for that. Hi folks, Future Bob here. I didn't expect to be making an appearance in this video, and I was just going to cut the bit out, but I thought, why don't I just leave it in, apologize for it, and then hopefully Past Bob learns a lesson and never does a bit like that again. He didn't even come up with a creative voice for the snake. I don't understand what he was... Wow, sorry. And I don't have any problems with 80% plus humidity. Under the topic of enrichment, I get asked sometimes for a list of enrichment items that you can purchase. I have a long list of affiliate links in the description below of all my videos. And if you use those links, it helps out the channel a little bit, but it's all the snake equipment that I have, including some enrichment. But I'll say this, that the best place to get enrichment is just go to the dollar store and pick up some fake plants. Make sure that they don't have like wires sticking out, but just fake plastic plants at the dollar store are great. And then walk through the aisles and see what else you can find that a snake could use. For instance, where's this thing? Hang on. This is not ball python enrichment. This hangs off the ladder and the super dwarfs climb on it. But the point is that I just bought it at one of those stores that sells decorative junk like that. It works great for the snakes. So do that at the dollar store. Walk the aisles and just see what would be cool to throw in there. And also, you probably know this if you watch my videos, but anything that's cardboard, toilet paper rolls, boxes, anything that I'm going to throw away, I throw into a snake enclosure before I throw it away. And then as soon as they ruin it, it gets tossed. But there's a lot of things that work really well as snake hides or just things that they can check out before it gets thrown away. And if you want the aesthetic, just stick with plastic plants from the dollar store or pork bark, or just get some stuff outside and make sure you bake it first so that it kills any organisms. But stuff you find outside, it works great for them too. And that's free. Don't get busted stealing your neighbor's stuff. Look at Freya, you guys. She's such a pretty girl. Okay, now we're going to talk about a couple of Husbandry 102 hacks, or 201. Husbandry 201. How does school work? Whatever. Anyway, the point is that I have two things to say. One of them you've heard me say before, but it bears mentioning again, and that is dry wipes. If you look in that list of Amazon affiliate links, you'll see a link for a dry wipe kit that comes with a bucket and then a whole bunch of rolls of just dry wipes. Then you can also find in that list a link for either chlorhexidine or F10. And you just mix up one of those, and I think I do about 64 ounces in a bucket. They can do more or less, it doesn't matter. And then you have wipes that you can use. What I do is I usually use a wipe if I'm picking up urates or defecation. I use a wipe to pick that up. That way it's getting some of that antibacterial stuff onto the enclosure and on my hands. I still wipe the enclosure with another wipe after I throw that away, and I still clean my hands off, but it's helpful. Works really well. The other thing that I've been using recently when I do full cleanouts is a shop vac. If you have access to a shop vac, or if you can buy one, they're not that expensive, get a shop vac. It's so much easier to just vacuum up substrate than grabbing tubs and dumping tubs or hand scooping substrate out of enclosures. It's a good tip right there. It saved me a lot of time. Where are you going, lady? Don't get caught. The other day, Freya got caught on the ladder, and it was a battle to get her off of there. If you were on my live stream last week, you would have watched that battle live. And you can check out the replay too, because it's up. Feeding is next, but before we get to that, let's find out what's happening in Kent's Corner. Hi, I'm Kent, and you're watching the greatest thing, Kent's Corner. Today, I'm going to talk to you about some snake facts. Now, I think everyone knows that all snakes are poisonous. I don't think anyone would argue that fact with me. But how much poison is contained in your snake's teeth when they inevitably bite you and empoisonate you? Just look at the color of your snakes. Do your snakes have colors? Then they're pretty friggin' poisonous. Kent, everything you're saying is wrong. You're not a scientist, so you would have no way of knowing. What about Kata? She's an all-white snake. That snake doesn't need poison. She's like 500 pounds. She'll crush your face off. I'll try to keep that in mind. Thanks, Kent. Let's do the Patreon thing. Hold on, where are my boards? Okay, I got the boards. These are the Horde of Keepers Thundercrack over on Patreon. And I realize that a lot of people still don't know what Patreon is. Patreon is a separate site from YouTube. For example, patreon.com/greenroompythons. where folks can go and support creators or channels or whatever. There are different levels of support, and some members of the Horde get sticker packs, some get t-shirts, some get other things. Everybody gets a chance to be on the waiting list, though. My waiting list for clutches comes from the Patreon supporters. So that's for members.
Oh, great.
And at any level, regardless of what else you're getting, you get to be a member of the Horde of Keepers Thundercrack, which you can carry that
So if I want
for the rest of your life as long as you walk this earth.
to get a snake from you, I have to join your Patreon too.
Freya's making the scroll longer
because he doesn't just like snake discovery, he does his waitlist on Patreon.
You're perfect for my neck, not for a process sign board. Hey folks, Future Bob again. Past Bob forgot an important category, even though he has it written on his clipboard. But it's heating. Winter is coming up, and a lot of people's glass enclosures are not going to be warm enough in the wintertime. Keep in mind that ball pythons do not need a heat drop or a temperature drop at all during the year. So just because it's snowing outside your house doesn't mean that there should be any change in the weather inside the snake's enclosure. So the biggest problem is people's houses are just colder in the wintertime. So if the room that your snake's enclosure is in is at like 65 degrees, 68 degrees, that's probably going to be too cold with the glass enclosure. So you can either move the enclosure to a warmer room, or bump the temperature up in the room that your snake is in, or just add a second overhead heat element on the cold side. So you've got heating on your warm side to keep it at 90, and then in the wintertime you may need like a ceramic heat emitter or something to keep your cold side at 80 degrees. That cold side heating element needs a separate thermostat as well. But one of those three options should help you to keep your glass enclosures warm enough in the wintertime. All right, now we're going to talk about feeding, and I have a few things to mention on this subject, and I have this little girl right here who is a snake that's going to one of my Patreon supporters because he was lucky enough to get on the list early, so he got his pick of the clutch. So a lot of people are concerned about switching their snakes from mice to rats, and they'll post on one of the forums, they'll go, I'm getting a new snake, and he's on mice right now, and I want to switch him to rats. How do I do it? And then they get all these tips to trick your snake into taking rats if they're on mice. And the fact is that most snakes aren't that picky. Most will just switch. And this little girl is a great example. Her first few meals were mice, and then I fed her a rat pup, and she took it without hesitation. It's not a problem. Even snakes that are a little bit older and have been fed exclusively mice oftentimes will just take a rat. So don't even worry about it until you've tried it. If you've tried it and the snake snubs the rat, then you can look at little tricks that you can do. But you probably won't need to do tricks. Most of them will just take a rat, no problem. The other thing, everybody sees these feeding charts that say to feed your ball python 10 to 15% of their body weight. That's a good guide to go by, but honestly, just eyeball it. And if you have a snake, this is another thing that I saw recently. If you have a snake that's super secure, give them all the hides in the world, and let them start eating before you handle them. Sometimes your snake will eat a meal and then go directly over to their cold side when they're supposed to be digesting on their warm side. Well, I recently made an Instagram reel about this, and it's 15 seconds, so it's probably faster than I can explain it. Let's just roll that. Can we throw it to a clip? Everybody in the booth, can we throw it to a clip? Pythons are slightly warm-blooded. They actually produce an endothermic reaction in digesting. Look at the difference between Stella's body temp and the temperature of the basket that she's sitting on. This is why some of your snakes might jump over to the cold side right after a meal like Stella's doing, and that's okay. There you go. Now, I was using my Super Dwarf reticulated python for that explanation, but it happens all the time with ball pythons. I have a few that regularly go to the cold side. They usually do it like for the first day they'll be in the cold side, and then they'll move to the warm. And that's totally fine. So that's something that a lot of keepers don't know that they should. Do you want to see some other stuff?
No, I never knew that.
Watch this video. It's a care guide. You've already seen the care guide. Watch one of my other videos. Or watch Netflix. I don't care. Actually, I do care. Please watch more of my videos. It helps out the channel.
We'll be back as a bowl here before long.
What's up, guys? It's your boy.
another video. Today, Alicia and I are hitting the streets once again, doing some randos nodding. Guys, smash that thumbs up, leave comments below. Make sure to share this on all your social media. We are getting ready to turn shit up a notch. Ooh, so who is this blonde bimbo right here? What up, though? What up, though? Hey, I'm just kidding. How's Pinkie Pie doing today? Good. You look good. I like the blonde. Put the glasses down. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Here we go. Uh-oh. Oh, what? Alright, guys. So we're just like 30 seconds away from our first location. Right here? Oh, you know what? Dude, this is that creepy house. We have no idea if anybody lives here or not. Dude, that place is spooky looking.
The grass has been cut.
Yeah, that's true. There's like a local legend that surrounds this place saying that it's like super duper haunted, but I'm not gonna. Whoa. Sounds like the police are riding in, guys. One thing's for sure, you hear the police around here in fire trucks all day, every day, non-stop. You know, I bet you if we could go in this place, I bet you there would be all kinds of haunting activity. Sometimes I just feel like I'm gonna see something in the windows. Like, your mind definitely matrix things, but like I almost feel like there's a face right over there. Is there? So that was our first intention, finding a haunting. You know what's crazy is I think this place probably is haunted, and there is a lot of local legend. But that's crazy that the app brought us here first. So our first intention of the day did check out, kind of, in a way. We'll never know how haunted it is. What do you think our next intention should be? How about something super sketch?
Super sketchy.
Yeah.